What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. We are here for our end of season awards ceremony. So get suited and booted, Sim. We're about to present the awards. I think we've got about 9 awards to get through. We haven't seen each other's, but usually when we do these kind of things, they are pretty similar. Mine and Sim's, picks. But let's get into it. You excited for this one?
Buzzing. It's been a very long up and down season. A lot of players have, Ange's first season. A lot of players have kind of done well, a lot of players not so well. So let's see who comes out on top of the prizes.
Exactly. We're going to start off with the biggest one of the lot, and that is Player of the Season. And we have both gone for Mickey van der Ven. I think there are a few front runners for this one with Mickey van der Ven, Coutinho Romero, Heung-min Son as well. But look, a few weeks ago or a week ago, I was saying Heung-min Son is the Player of the Year, but when all things are done now, you're looking at the consistent performances throughout the season. You look at the man that's stepped up for us the most on a consistent basis. I think it has been Mickey van der Ven, and he's just been sublime, really. And more or less every single game, bar that Newcastle game, he's been absolutely sublime.
Yeah, where would we be without Mickey van der Ven? He's just had such a stellar season, considering it's his first season as well in the Premier League. Literally only had one bad game as well. His standards have been so consistently high. It's quite incredible for such a new player, such a young player in the Premier League, only 22 years of age. And even more recently, we've seen him play at left back and also put in some really good displays and show he's got a bit of versatility as well. And also, he's been able to get on the score sheet with a few bangers. And shown his ability when he gets in the final third. He actually has a bit of quality as well. So what can't he do, this guy? I think he's had an amazing season, literally from day one, been so consistent. I'm so happy to have him. And for me, just his consistency gets him Player of the Season.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable to think what a high ceiling this guy actually has. 22 years of age, first season in the Premier League. How good can he get?
Yeah, I mean, if he's at this level at this point, it's scary to think. I think he's on his way to being, one of the best in Europe.
And what a great partnership he's kind of formed with Coutinho Romero as well. And that is going to flourish as well in the years to come. Let's move on. Young Player of the Year. We usually like to not have the same player as Player of the Year and Young Player of the Year. But as you can see, it is Destiny Udogie, picked by both of us. So why Destiny?
Well, first of all, I think our Young Player of the Year criteria is a bit different to the Premier League. I went for someone who's under 21. I think it's a bit ridiculous that players over that age are being considered. But Destiny, first season as a regular starter at left back in the Premier League, considering it's a completely new role for him as well in terms of how he plays at left back. A lot of people had question marks because he's played at wing back before, whether he can play this inverted role. And he's literally taken at left back like a duck to water. Has literally, from the first day, started at left back from day one and has been so consistent in terms of how he's been able to bully players on that left-hand side, dominate that left-hand side as well, defensively and going forward. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Yes, he had a bit of a tail off after an injury near the end of the season, but at 20 years of age, performing at the level that he's been performing at this season is astonishing. And for me, he's got a good shout for being the best left-back in the Premier League this season. So on that basis, I think he has to be a Young Player of the Year for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Taken to the Premier League like a duck to water. We loaned him back last year, and we probably were all thinking, get him in the team last year. We could have done with him last year. But this year, he's come in under Ange Postecoglou in a new role, an inverted role, which he's never played before in his career. And he's been absolutely brilliant. He's, 20 years of age? And he plays like he's in his mid-20s, late 20s, like a seasoned veteran or someone in his prime at the moment. So it's scary to think how more built up, how more physical he can get, how much better on the ball he can get. And we're just seeing the beginnings of Destiny Udogie. And I fully believe he's just going to keep getting better and better and better. So an unbelievable season for him. Yes, he did tail off a bit towards the end, but you expect that sometimes with a young player, have ups and downs. But it was mostly an upward trajectory from him. So for sure, Young Player of the Year for me. But let us know yours in the comments section below. Now we go on to Most Improved Player in a Spurs shirt this year. We've finally gone for someone different, and Sim has gone for Richarlison. I have gone for Pedro Porro. The reason I've gone for Pedro Porro is he came in last January. A lot of fans were saying, this guy can't defend. He was getting eaten up alive at times. You remember his debut where he was just all over the place. And that happened quite a few times last season. You remember the away game at Newcastle when, everyone was all over the place, but he definitely contributed to that. And people are thinking, in a really attacking lineup, maybe moving position as well into the inverted role, can he combat that? Can he show his defensive nous and really improve this season? And me personally, I was saying that I don't think he's going to be suited to this system. And he's proved me wrong. I think he's proved a lot of fans wrong in terms of his defensive capabilities. And obviously, I think he's actually taking his offensive capabilities to another level this season as well. You've seen the goals he's scored, the assists he's been getting. I think no fullback has got more goal contributions than him this season. So for me, Pedro Porro is the most improved player for Spurs this season.
I have gone for Richarlison. The reason being is because it was such a disaster his first season. Literally one Premier League goal. Performance level was literally on the floor. And if you look at it statistically, he's improved his goal return by 1,100% this season by getting 11 Premier League goals. I do think we've seen a completely different side to Richarlison this season. And whether he stays or not, he's had a far, far, far better season than his first season. And he showed an ability that he can play in the system. He can be a good player for us should he stay. Whether he's done enough to convince the manager or the board or whatever that if a good offer comes in, we won't accept it, that's a different question. But has he been our most improved player from last season? I think for me, for sure, because he was absolutely atrocious last season. And a lot of people wouldn't have been sad to see the back of him. And now it's maybe a bit of a different story, 11 Premier League goals as well. And I think his overall game is at a much higher standard for me. I was thinking about Porro, but for me, I actually liked Porro last season. I actually don't think he played badly when he came in. I know he had a horrible debut, but after that, I actually think he was quite good. I think he got like quite a few goal contributions as well. So
for me, it was the defensive thing for him, because even when he was getting those goal contributions, he was still a bit of a liability defensively, and I think he's massively improved that this season. That's what I was mainly looking at when I was talking about most improved player. But I can completely understand where you're coming from with Richarlison for sure. I think when you're looking at the top two, them two are probably the top two most improved players this season. But let's move on to a next one, and it's the other end of the spectrum now. Who is the most regressed player this season? We've gone for two different ones yet again. Two central midfielders. Sim's gone for Ollie Skip. I've gone for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Why are you thinking Skippy?
I think Skip because last season, obviously he was out for quite a bit last season, but when he came back into the team, I remember there was that game against AC Milan. We had a few injuries. Him and Sarr started in the double pivot, and he was actually quite good last season. And it looked like we were getting that Skip before the injury coming in. Obviously, he was probably overplayed a bit last season because we had those injuries. But I remember he went for that run of games where he was playing really well. You know, we played against Chelsea. He scored a great goal. And he tailed off like the rest of the team near the end of the season. But I actually thought there were signs of last season that Ollie Skip could be getting back to his pre-injury form. And obviously pre-injury, everyone was really, really excited about him back in 2021 when he came back from that loan deal from Norwich. But this season, I've been really... I've obviously been a really big advocate of Ollie Skip. I really believe he's got a big future here. But this is the first season I'm really thinking I don't know if he has a long-term future here now, because I think he's really gone down in my estimation in terms of how his ability to play in this kind of system. I think when he's played this season, more often than not, it's been a really poor, average performance. He hasn't got to grips with how Ange wants to play. He gives the ball away way too often. He did have a couple of good displays at fullback later on in the season, but that doesn't that doesn't paper over what has been a poor season for me for Ollie Skip, and that's why there's even talk of us selling him, which a couple of years ago would have been very, very surprising to even talk about, people saying he's a future captain. So for me, Ollie Skip's probably the one who's regressed the most, unfortunately.
I don't think our player ratings reflect that. We rated him quite highly in the player ratings, didn't we?
No, we gave him 6.1 in the end.
Oh, was it 6.1 in the end? But in terms of Ollie Skip, yeah, I do understand where you're coming from. He was touted out as a future Spurs captain at one point under Jose Mourinho. And yeah, now we are thinking maybe we should move him on in terms of getting more players that can suit the system. But in my opinion, it is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. He was a mainstay. I think he played more or less every game last season, starting every game. And this season, he's been more or less on the bench when he has started. I think we've only won one of those games. He's just not suited to this system. I don't think he's good enough on the ball. Off the ball, he's all right, and he always gives 100%. But in terms from ability-wise, I think that you could clearly see last year it was a system that suited him. This year it's a system that just doesn't suit him anymore. We've moved on from that kind of style of player in the middle of the park, and I think his performances have reflected that as well. So unfortunately, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who was a former favourite of mine a couple of years back, I think he's probably been the most regressed player in a Spurs shirt this season, especially when you think about the minutes he actually had this season towards the actual minutes he's had this year. I know he's played a lot of football in terms of in actual games, but he's not started many games, and I think that is why. So, and also when you've got to look at it, like our midfield has been performing poorly for a large part of this season, and still he hasn't been able to knuckle down and get consistent starts, and I think that proves the point I'm trying to make. But let us know who you think the most regressed player is for Spurs this season. Next up is signing of the season, and if we give Mickey van de Ven player of the season, he has to get signing of the season. So from both of us, Mickey van de Ven gets signing of the season. Vicario's a big shout for it as well. He's come in and stepped into Hugo Lloris's shoes really well, and he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the year in the Premier League. But seeing as Mickey van de Ven was just that much better, it has to go to him.
Yeah, I guess maybe value for money, considering in this day and age getting a first choice keeper for or any kind of first choice in your starting 11 for 17 million is a really great deal, I think. So getting Vicario 17 million is a fantastic deal, but 40 million for Van de Ven, considering as much as I love Vicario, do I think he's got the trajectory to be one of the top keepers in the whole of Europe like Van de Ven does in terms of defenders? I think Van de Ven's ceiling on that kind of front is higher, and I think the fact that we got him for 40 million is a fantastic price in this market. I think already
it was euros as well, 40 million euros.
Already his price is probably 100 million at this point after one season. It's over doubled, I would say. That's how good he's been. And even if we got 100 million bid this summer, I think we reject it, and that's the quality he's shown. So I think he's definitely been our best signing, and I can't wait for many, many more years of Van de Ven.
And then moving on to worst signing of the season, and unfortunately it's a fairly easy pick with Manor Solomon, both of us going for Manor. When you look at the players that we did sign this summer, Brennan Johnson, 15 goal contributions this year, James Maddison, the way he started the season like a house on fire, Mickey van de Ven, obviously, Radu Dragusin, who I think's come in and done fairly well every time, Vicario, Veliz, Manor Solomon and Timo Werner. Timo Werner's served his purpose. Veliz, obviously, he's a young player. He's gone out on loan, and which leaves Manor Solomon. You know, he came in and he did okay first few games, but seeing as he has been injured from October all the way till now, and there are rumours that we're looking to sell him, I guess there's no other option but him.
Yeah, it has to be him. He's been the worst signing. He's been the signing that's contributed the least, I'd argue. He's been the signing that has not done enough to... He's been injured. So he's been injured. You can't be a good signing if you've been injured, can you? So you have to be the worst signing, unfortunately. But the problem is we signed him knowing that last season he also had a serious injury where he was ruled out for over half the season. So knowing that, we still decided to sign him on a free. And all the problems we caused with Shakhtar to get this signing as well, all the legal battles and stuff. This signing has been nothing but a kind of nuisance, I feel, at this point in time. So I'm not saying just because of that we should sell him. I think we should sell him because when we signed him, I didn't think he was good enough anyway, even with all those things, in my opinion. So as much as I was hoping Solomon can prove me wrong and, get regular game time and really take that left wing spot in the team, I was never really convinced, and it looks like Spurs were never really convinced by it as well, given the fact that we're looking to sell him now. So I think that's the case. Yeah,
it's an unfortunate case because injuries have hampered him massively. You don't know what could have been if he didn't get those injuries, but the reality is that he did. I liked what I saw from him, to be fair, when he was in the team in the first 5 games. A couple of good performances, one really good performance away at Burnley where he got a couple assists to his name, but one great performance is not going to cut it, really. You need to be doing it on a consistent basis, and I know you can't do that if you're injured, but he just wasn't available. And I think when you look at the other players that we signed this season, they all actually had a fairly positive impact. So he's got to go into worst signing of the season. As we move on to flop of the season, who has been the flop of the season? Me and Sim again have gone for the exact same player, and he goes by the name of Brian Hill. And Brian Hill had a big opportunity this season when you're looking at the injuries that we had. Every time he came in, he flattered to deceive. A few times he got taken off. Well, I think once he got taken off at half-time. The one time he did get a big slice of minutes was, I think he got 75 minutes against Aston Villa. I don't think he performed well that game, and he just doesn't look at home in the Premier League. I think he looks too weak, too small for the Premier League, and he just fails to make an impact every single time he plays. So look, there are a couple of other shouts for flop of the season. You look at Bissouma with the way he started and the way he dropped off and the hopes we had for him and the way his season kind of worked out. Manor Solomon in terms of the injuries, but I always found it harsh to call him actual flop of the season because it was an injury that stopped that. So Brian Hill was available pretty much all season, and every time he got on the pitch, he was pretty poor.
Yeah, he wasn't good enough. That's the reality. He was really frustrating whenever he was on the pitch, and in theory, the way we play now should really suit him. And not just because on the ball, obviously, he gives him opportunities to run at defenders and be in attacking situations, but he's also quite a combative forward as well. He likes to press, he likes to get amongst things, and this is a kind of system that allows him to do that. And even that, he wasn't really doing as well as I'd hoped on that front in terms of trying to win the ball back high up the pitch and things like that. For me, he got a few opportunities. He never ever took an opportunity, in my opinion. Never had a good game, and obviously had the chance to leave in January. Decided not to do it. He stuck around and never saw many minutes in the second half of the season as well. And I think it was he had a few cameos late in the season. You know, coming off the bench to try and change a game, and never ever was able to impact the game positively. So for me, has to be flop of the season, and he's probably going to be out the door in January, in the summer.
Yeah, and it probably should have happened last summer, to be fair. I've always felt sorry for Brian Hill because he has always been the last thought of this football club. Whenever a transfer window comes around, if a deal ever gets done for him going out on loan, it's always like the last day, the last thought. And it's a shame. It's a shame, really, but it is what it is. It was just a terrible transfer from the off, 25 million plus Eric Lamela. And you think like, the managers that Brian Hill has had, you look at Antonio Conte, even Ange Postecoglou, I think Lamela would have done well in these systems.
Yeah, potentially. I think, I don't know about this system.
Conte for sure.
I don't know where he would fit in this system. I don't think he plays on the wing, and then I don't think he plays in midfield as well. So I don't know where he fits in.
But you're talking about a guy
Conte,
a guy who's relentless at pressing is Eric Lamela. So I think Ange would actually really like him. I think he would see a lot of minutes.
But then again, he's always injured. So.
That's all right, let's move on to goal of the season. We've gone for different ones this time, both against Burnley, funnily enough. Sim's gone for Cuti Romero.
Yeah, I was toying between that one, the Porro one that you've gone for, and Richarlison's second against Everton, which was a nice one.
What about Van der Ven's?
And Van der Ven against Forest, that was also one, but because it was just inside the box, I decided against it. So I went for Romero's away at Burnley, just because I actually think when it comes to the technique he used, like an out swinging shot into the far corner, which kissed the post on the edge of the box as well, and to put us in the lead just for half time. I thought the technique was brilliant on that goal. To come from a centre back as well, it's not usually Romero to get on that, so I thought it was a brilliant goal, and that's probably just about the best goal of the season for me.
Yeah, I went for Pedro Porro at home to Burnley in the FA Cup. A clutch goal, wasn't it, in the last 5 minutes, 0-0. Really frustrating game. It needed a moment of magic for Spurs to progress into the next round of the FA Cup. Obviously, it all came to nothing because we went out in the next round. But I thought that goal was of the highest quality, and I thought it was the best goal Spurs had scored this season. So Pedro Porro in the FA Cup against Burnley. Let me know your goal of the season in the comment section below. And it's funny that when we're talking about goal of the season, usually every single year we're talking about a Sonny goal and a Sonny banger, but he hasn't scored one this season. Yeah,
most of his goals have been like one-on-one finishes or tap-ins or stuff like that. He hasn't really scored many goals from outside the box, so need more of those, Sonny.
Yeah. Now we're getting into the last couple of awards. Next up is Performance of the Season, and I think there's nowhere else to look but this game, and that is a 4-0 win at Villa Park. What it meant at the time as well. After that game, everyone was saying top four is a dead cert. Obviously, we massively fell off after that game, but that performance and that result meant so much at the time in terms of the top 4 race. A Villa side who were high flying at that point in time, and everyone was thinking, nah, Spurs got no chance going to Villa Park. Their home form was incredible at that stage of the season, and our away form was much to be desired for. And we went off and we just completely played them off the park, didn't we? I think it was 1-0 at half time or 0-0 at half time, and the second half we literally just scored goal after goal after goal, and they just couldn't live with us.
I think it's our most complete performance of the season. Yeah, Johnson was running rings around them on the left-hand side, causing all sorts of problems. I thought Decky got really involved on the right-hand side, showed what he can do. Sonny obviously has got a brace. And defensively was one of our best displays of the season, even though Van de Ven went off just after half-time. Dragusin comes on. He still kept Watkins very, very quiet. And Villa had very, very little going forward, which is unlike them, especially at home, to have so little chances. And I think Tottenham just kept them quiet. Obviously, at 2-0, they obviously get McGinn sent off as well, which obviously helped us go on to win the game. Timo Werner coming on late on as well, adding a fourth. But I just thought it was one of those performances where you saw what Angeball can do with the amount of control we can have, and also it was an ability to show that even though we can play beautiful football, doesn't mean we have to be completely open all the time at the back. Doesn't mean we can't be solid defensively, which we were in this game. And we had such great control. And that was, at the time, a real statement victory. It didn't turn out to be like that come the end of the season. But that was some evidence of what Angeball was really capable of. So that was my performance of the season.
And we go on to the last award of the season. And this is an individual display of the season. We've both gone for the same man, which is Heung-min Son against Newcastle. That was like a throwback Sonny performance on the left wing. Completely took Trippier to the cleaners. Spurs were brilliant that day. And this game could have also been up there with performance of the season because we were scintillating that day. But I thought Heung-min Son was a complete different level. Absolutely different level. The way he terrorised Trippier at right back at that time. I can't remember, how many goals did he score that day?
He scored 1 penalty and then he got 2 assists.
2 assists, yeah, that was it. I don't think we've seen a performance like that from Sonny for a while. And when we saw it at left wing, I think it blew all of us away, to be honest. It really did.
Yeah, he was absolutely stellar in that game, and he completely terrorised Kieran Trippier time after time. I think he got 2 assists coming from the left, taking Trippier on the outside, cutting it back, one for Richarlison and one for a doggy as well, putting on a plate. Obviously, he got that penalty near the end, but when he went into the forward position in the second half as well, was running in behind Newcastle. I think he had a few chances from 1-on-1. He literally terrorised that Newcastle defence that whole afternoon, and it was a perfect performance from Heung-min Son, and I think it was one of the really standout performances of the season, so I gave it to that one.
You know which performance I was actually toying with putting it in, but I just, for the life of me, just couldn't do it? Vicario against Chelsea in the 4-1 loss.
He was brilliant in that game. Absolutely brilliant.
I was thinking putting him in, but I was like, can I really put a goalkeeper performance in a 4-1 loss? We were down to 9 men, and the sweeping job that he did that day was just insane. But I just sided with Sonny. But Vicario in that game definitely gets a big shout, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely agree. He was phenomenal. And the amount of saves he made in that period was one of the best I've seen in terms of sweeping goalkeeping performance in Premier League history, I think.
And we were like crying out for a sweeping keeper since, like, you know, Lloris in his prime, the sweeping job that he used to do. And obviously the older he got, the worse he got at it. And then finally Vicario in one of his first, I think his 10th game or 9th game or something in a Spurs shirt. It was a joy to behold, even though we did lose that game 4-1. Individually, it was brilliant from Vicario. But look, that is your post-season awards. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your winners of each and every individual award that we have given today. But thank you all for joining us. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.